believe that by 2050, more than two-thirds of the global population will be in the urban area. More than half of these will be in developing countries, especially Southeast Asia. In order to provide adequate housing, infrastructure, sanitation, public safety, and other essential services, urbanization is highly impact on ecosystem, especially in Southeast Asia where the landscape not well planned. Urbanization is currently one of the most important drivers of species extinction during this century. Birds are excellent indicators of changes and stress in the urban ecosystem because the sampling is relatively easy, the taxonomy is relatively well established, and also the bird is a reliable indicator of biodiversity richness. So make it popular for environmental monitoring studies. Nearly all previous studies on the relationship between urbanization and bird diversity carried out in the temperate countries. Since the biodiversity is typical for tropical regions, so more studies are needed since this study from the tropical countries may give you the unknown patterns, and that will help in mitigate the negative effect of human development. So in this study, the objectives are to determine the pattern of bird species diversity along urbanization gradient in Hat Yai City, and to examine the underlying factors for such pattern. This picture shows you Hat Yai City, which is a flat area surrounded by some kind of forest. Before the foreground is the Khao Hong Hill, a small patch of forest, and the background is the protected area, which is some 30 kilometers away from the Hat Yai. Hat Yai itself was a small village in the late 19th century. After the establishment of the Hat Yai railway stations 100 years ago, it became a town. And after that, the population increased from a density of 1,000 per square kilometer to nearly 8,000 now. Currently, 90% of the people in Hat Yai live in the city. The study area was within 10 kilometers radius of Hat Yai City. The habitat was categorized into 5 types, including the forest. In this case, the Khao Hong Hill, which is a slightly disturbed forest, it is a small forest patch, 1.5 by 6 kilometers. 50% of the forest of the hill are still forest, including subseasonal and old growth. The rest are rubber plantation. You can see the flat canopy of the rubber. The semi-natural woodlands. This is the government office at the edge of Khao Hong Hill. In this case, the habitat is characterized by natural woodland, which is still preserved. And also, there are some kind of human modifications. The third habitat is rural area. This is the landscape in Hat Yai itself. You can see a lot of rubber plantations interspersed with the rice field, fruit orchard, and scattered trees. For the urban and suburban area, this is the human settlement. We categorize it based on the percent of building, 30 to 50 for the suburban and more than 50 for the urban area. In this study, we use point sampling techniques. In this habitat, we set 1 kilometer transect. And in each transect, we set a series of 6 points, which is about 200 meters apart. Bird sampling was done 3 times from May to November 2008. Each point, bird was observed within 25 meter radius for 10 minutes in the morning. You can see that the researchers in this project are high school students. So what we do is the volunteer. We use 27 high school students from twice school. They are training before, and then they will test. If they are able to observe and identify at least 70% of the birds seen by the co-author, they will allow to involve in the further data collection. These volunteers were divided into 9 teams, 3 persons each team, and to calibrate the result, each team surveyed only one transect in each habitat for 2 times, and the other did the third survey. This is a map showing the distribution of the transect in each habitat. The line represents the habitat, the light color. For statistical analysis, we use estimate F to estimate species richness. Canonical correspondence analysis were applied to determine the environmental factor that explain this variation. For the result, you can see from the graph that the forest hold the highest number of species, followed by rural, semi-natural, lower in suburban and urban. In opposite way, the number of birds seen is higher in urban and relatively similar between rural, semi-natural and suburban, and lowest in the forest. The result from estimate S also give the same pattern. The diversity index and evenness were greater in forest, intermediate in rural and semi-natural, and low in suburban and urban area. In terms of similarity between birds in different habitats, you can see that birds found in forest were mostly similar to those in semi-natural and rural, where the urban birds were largely similar to suburban ones. We also quantified the environmental factor around the observation points. So we quantify the percent of tree covers, grass covers, and buildings in each point. You can see from the graph that the percent of trees and buildings are opposite. So in this case, we can say that the urbanization gradient is in the following order from forest, rural, semi-natural, suburban, and urban. Then, when we correlate between bird diversity index, we found that the bird diversity index was significantly positively correlated with the percent of tree covers, but it's opposite to the percent of buildings. The CCA also explained that the tree cover and percent building are the most important factors that explain this variation. So, from these studies, we found that bird diversity decreased with the increasing of urbanizations, but the abundance or the density of the bird is in opposite way. This pattern somehow similar to other tropical countries, but slightly different from temperate countries. In the temperate countries, there are more or higher diversity found in the moderated developed habitats. We also found this study that several species limit their distribution to the forest, including that picture, the paradise flycatcher. It has been suggested that the tropical forest birds are ecological inflexibilities and is strongly correlated with the forest. Sorry, I'm working with that, so I'm This is some example of the bird that limit itself to the forest. Although in the first observation we also see it in other woodland, but it never out from a kind of complex woodland, right? In the city, what we found is tree sparrow, common myna, rock pigeons, spot dove, and zebra dove are typically abundant, made 94% of our bird found. All of these are carnivores except the common myna in this picture. The common myna is herbivore. They use food for littering and waste. This bird is common in the city and it makes a loud noise at night because they live in the trees. I think they make a lot of discussion at night too. These birds are able to nest in house and buildings, so it's quite abundant in the city. Somehow we also need to concern about the habitat in like rural area where a number of bird species show their present abundance there. this bird may be benefit from slightly or higher food availability in this habitat. It has been criticized that if we use volunteer for ecological research studies, the result often not rigorous because the volunteers might misidentify and missing the animals. However, the volunteer-based study it benefits since it increased data quantities. The volunteer gain experience in scientific research and they're more awareness and appreciate of their available resources. So we should minimize the error by training them and also well designed to balancing the bias. For conservation applications, we can see that the forest patch, very small forest patch, very small, with some degree of disband isolation, still retain high diversity, and the protection is needed. And rural area also maintain some kind of diversity of birds, so we should maintain the native species there. This example is the jungle rubber, which they maintain the native trees and also they allow the natural vegetation. The farmer said that rubber production increased and also it supports higher diversity. So I should finish with this slide that we also need to increase the green corridor and stepping stones. Some studies, my students found that in the city like Hat Yai, high diversity of birds found in the temple with lot of woodland like this. Thank you for your attention and for our volunteer.